And welcome to another episode of By the Numbers with Eric Paul Johnson. I'm Pep Fernandez. And Eric, we start with your question from last week. And you chronicled Kings volleyball team's state title run. And your question last week was which other teams in the inland area, San Bernardino and Riverside counties, have also reached the state championship match?
Yeah, last week we had two teams that were trying to get to the state finals. King obviously did make it. Rim fell a game short. Rim was looking for its seventh berth in the state finals, obviously the inland's best volleyball dynasty. But four other teams had made it to the state finals prior to, or in addition to those two programs, and it was Linfield Christian 1982, Indio 1983, Hesperia Christian in 96, and Redlands East Valley, of course, back-to-back in 2008 and 2009, also falling to Archbishop Mitty, as King did this week.
All right, now moving on to your column from this week, we start with K.J. Young. If you watched HS Game Time or maybe even ESPN SportsCenter's Top 10 this past Friday night, you saw his spectacular catch. He's been doing that all season long, really, for Citrus Hill. But K.J. Young putting up some career numbers, some season numbers that are worth remembering for the Hawks.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously left a great last impression for Citrus Hill fans out there. He finished the season with 92 catches for 1,593 yards and 18 touchdowns. All of those ranked somewhere in the top 5 in the area's history. For a single season, but also career-wise, he's in the top 10 in all categories. So 153 catches, 2,630 yards, and 31 touchdowns. So those rank 6th, 8th, and 7th all-time respectively, and it's pretty impressive because he didn't play much as a sophomore, only had a few games here and there. So most of those numbers were put up over 2 seasons. So yeah, definitely, as I kind of said, this was a resurgent year for receivers when we saw what K.J. Young did, what Michael Stewart at Tockwitz did, obviously Khalil Young, and even
Khalil Sharp.
Khalil Sharp, and then obviously Centennial with Chase Crivachet and Barry Ware putting up some interesting numbers in terms of either yards, catches, or touchdowns.
Yeah, and Young's stats translated into great highlights for our HS Game Time video shows. All right, Robert Webber at Centennial had a monster year, and if you think back to Centennial, they've had some great quarterbacks go through there, but maybe Robert Webber's maybe at the top, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those systems where quarterbacks are going to have the chance to put up big numbers, but overall right now, statistically speaking, Robert Webber having maybe the best season that we've ever seen from a Centennial quarterback. He had a rough start in the championship game, turned the ball over on the first 2 possessions, but bounced back nicely and threw for over 250 yards in that game, scored 2 touchdowns. So on the year now, 3,343 yards, which set a new school record. And as a quarterback, he's accounted for 42 touchdowns, and that passes Michael Eubanks' quarterback record at Centennial of 41 touchdowns. So, and right now he's approaching almost 4,000 career or season yards this year, either rushing and passing, and that's about a little over 100 yards, like 169 yards shy of Michael Eubanks' 2010 year. So, and Robert Webber has got at least one more chance, and maybe 2 to top those numbers. So definitely a fantastic season by Robert Webber this year.
Narbonne on Saturday, and he's only a junior.
Yep.
What will he do for an encore next season for Centennial? All right, Jacob Taylor at Rim of the World. He led the Fighting Scots to a championship. It's been a while since they had a championship up on the mountain. Yeah,
that kind of ended a nice little drought for Rim of the World. It was their 3rd overall title, but the first since 1976. And kind of say how long it's been. The person who was the quarterback on their last championship team was Coach Bob Gradius, so he got to hoist
Full circle.
got to hoist that championship plaque again. But it's not the longest streak between titles in the 2-county area. The record for that belongs to Chino, which actually went 49 years between titles. They won 1 in 48, didn't win again until 97. And then after that, Colton went 37 years between titles between 1941 and 1978. So, for both those programs, some interesting ones. We have a couple of programs still around that could break this streak. If Redlands could win a title, their only title they've ever won is 1950. Wow. So they're working on 62 years between titles. So that's probably the best shot we could see it maybe breaking the streak if Redlands could win another title.
You're getting to a Chicago Cubs, Boston Red Sox territory prior to the World Series. All right, your question this week for By the Numbers, and we use this term loosely when we say held Centennial, but Vista Marieta's defense did a pretty good job against the Huskies, but not the best job this season when taking on Centennial.
Yeah, like you said, held is one of those terms. 462 yards. That actually is a very good job. That's actually holding Centennial over 80 yards under their season average. But it's only the fourth best defensive effort in terms of yards allowed this season. There have been 3 other teams that have allowed fewer yards to the Huskies this year. Question of the week is, which team has held Centennial to the fewest yards this season? It was 426. That's Centennial's worst effort of the year. But yeah, it's that will be our question. Which team out there did the best job yardage-wise against Centennial? And just to give you a little hint here is Centennial still won the game. So that throws St. Bonaventure out of the mix.
Yeah, does not include their season opener. You'll be surprised when you hear the answer, I think, next week. So join us next Tuesday for another episode of By the Numbers with EPJ.